Art. Let's talk about that today. Specifically contemporary art, or to be even more precise, conceptual art, or to zone it even more, a conceptual art of the artist by the name of Salvatore Grou. Now let me tell you in advance, if you like NFTs of all sizes and shapes, you're gonna love this story for sure. But on the other hand, if you hate them with vitriolic passion, oh boy, do I have a story for you. But before any of that, if you like bizarre, strange and sometimes even creepy stories about people, places, sometimes even experiments, why don't you subscribe to my channel? Because those are the only videos that I make. And while we're at it, why don't you like this video? Thanks in advance. Now first things first. Who is Salvatore Grou and what's this big deal about him? Now born in 1953 in the province of Santa Guina, I think that's how it's pronounced, on the Italian island of Sardinia, was where he spent most of his youth. Now once he was 17 years old, he went to Florence to Accademia di Belle Arti di Florence to basically learn how to paint. And as a young man, first time entering such a big city, he was starstruck with its rich history. To him, every wall, every nook and cranny had a different and beautiful story. The museums enchanted him, while the academy provided everything he needed to flourish. According to him, he was mostly left to his own devices, and he learned mostly everything by trial and error, all by himself. His first works were rudimentary and rough around the edges, but they were still works of art nonetheless. He learned the human body composition, the fine line where muscles connect, how they contract and expand, the elegant lines of delicate skin. Yes, his first works were of different models, as they usually are for all art students, and he was very much grateful for that. Those 4 years at the academy were crucial, as he was not only taught how to draw, but rather how to live. So after he graduated in 1974, he had 3 years to decide what he wanted to do next in his life. And in 1977 he joined a band, Stormy Six, as a drummer. A surprisingly popular Italian band. They even went to open for such bands as Rolling Stones and Henry Cole. He stayed with them until they disbanded in 1983. It was worth mentioning that his first solo show was only 1 year after, in 1984. Now there are many of his accomplishments in the world of art, but I will only list those that I deem at least a little bit more interesting, that are able to provide you a better insight into what kind of artist he is. In 2005 he painted his first major abstract work, and major is an understatement. It was a work on 200 square meters of PVC sheet that ended up covering scaffolding on a building in Milan. After that, next year for his Ictis Sacrosagno art installation, he went back to Sardinia, to Oristano province, where he, and I shit you not, created large ponds in 3 different churches and then filled those ponds with fish. Now he's starting to work on his more contemporary conceptual art. Not like he did this suddenly or anything. He was fascinated with philosophy and different kinds of ideas from a very young age, so this should come as no surprise. And yet somehow it still did. He stayed busy through years and his works ended up in several different museums. Make no mistake, he is famous and legitimate artist. Whatever you might be thinking now, he does make art. But here comes the best part. From 2021, he did his newest installation. His plan was to create 7 of them down the line. A so-called non-visible sculptures. I'm not joking. Let me say that again. He's selling sculptures that you can't see, feel, touch, or perceive with any of the known senses. I mean, what even is art but something that we ourselves perceive as such? I mean, what I consider an art or a piece of art, someone else might consider a turd on a paper. So what I'm trying to say is, who's to say what is and isn't a piece of art? His first such installation was Buddha in Contemplation in February in Milan's Piazza della Scala, a square drawn down on a cobblestone walkway, and that's it. Well, not really according to him. He states, "You don't see it, but it exists. It is made of air and spirit. It is the work that asks you to activate the power of imagination. the power that anyone has, even those who don't believe have it. Now, this first work of art and the subsequent pandemic lockdown, which was especially harsh in Italy, gave him ample time to contemplate on where he would go with his new art form. And he didn't have to think very long. Just a few months after that, on the auction by the Italian Arte Right organization, his next work, Lo Sogno, or I Am, was sold for 15,000 euros. And you guessed it, it was a non-visible sculpture. 15,000 euros, oh my fucking god. But the lucky buyer, who was anonymous by the way, didn't leave quite empty-handed. He in fact received a certificate of authenticity that he in fact owns the said invisible sculpture. And he also received instructions on how to install and view the said sculpture, because you can't just put such works of art on willy-nilly wherever you want, you filthy pleb. First of all, it needs to be placed in an area of 4.9 by 4.9 feet, which is around 150 by 150 centimeters. And it's only to be viewed inside a private house, not to be displayed openly in public, probably because we are ourselves most in our private settings, or something like that. Now here's the following what he had to say on the auction and the subsequent sale of his art. The successful outcome of the auction testifies to an irrefutable fact. The void is nothing but a space full of energy. And even if we empty it and nothing remains, according to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle that nothingness has weight, it, therefore, has an energy that condenses and transforms itself into particles. In short, in us. When I decide to exhibit an immaterial sculpture in a given space, that space will concentrate a certain quantity and density of thoughts in a precise point, creating a sculpture that from my title alone will take the most varied forms. After all, don't we give shape to a God we have never seen? Now, as you can see, he has some points that he tries to spread across with his specific art. Now, whether someone gets it or doesn't get it is not on the artist, but rather on those who are trying to appreciate such art. And there are in fact people who appreciate said art, not just that anonymous buyer. There are people out there. In fact, you only need to visit his Instagram page and do a quick scan of his comments, a vast majority of whom are quite positive. Okay, or maybe a mixed bag of positive and negative. The people taking piss at him and those praising him. But that's the deal when you're in the spotlight. So now you see how people would likely draw parallels with NFTs, which are a shitstorm on their own. For a couple of you who are not initiated into NFTs, they stand for non-fungible tokens, which tells you jack shit, am I right? Basically, it was supposed to mean that they are unique in the world of cryptocurrency. You have a one-of-a-kind item that can't be replaced. If you end up trading one Bitcoin for another Bitcoin, you would end up having one Bitcoin, an equal exchange. It's fungible. While if you want an equivalent exchange of NFTs, you'd have to trade your, let's say, a donkey dick picture with a flat tire on a sunset, and that would be considered equal. What I'm trying to say is that they are a stupidly overpriced pictures that go for high prices for some arbitrary reason, and because of an extremely high demand and popularity among the extremely rich. So some could already draw some parallels between NFTs and Salvatore's work, but that's not something that he would really appreciate. For one, his art has absolutely zero impact on environment. It's practically non-existent. Every other crypto needs to be mined, and they are mined by computers who need to constantly be on, solving some puzzles on blockchain or whatnot. I mean, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but that's my idea of it. And besides that, there's his own stance on the NFTs, which he proudly displays on his Instagram page. Now, in fact, this is not the last such sculpture that he made, or is manifested a better term, but it's not visible, therefore created? Yeah, let's go with created. Now, this is not the last sculpture that he created. If you wish to see his latest work, Aphrodite Cries, you'd have to go to a New York City's Federal Hall, where on the ground, right in front of stock exchange there is a circle denoting said sculpture. Now, unlike similarities to the previous works by, say, Maurizio Catalan, who was banana taped on a wall, sold up to $120,000 and started a huge ass hype for such works, Salvatore's works are relatively cheaper in that sense, going for only measly $18,300. Now, what are your thoughts on him and his art? How do you see it? Is he a charlatan who sells a empty air for stupidly rich to spend money on? Or B, is he a visionary and a trendsetter for some future ideas? Let me know down in the comments. I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts and ideas on this. Now that's it for the story. I found it extremely interesting and compelling. Contemporary art. Not really a thing for me, but at least I can understand it. Well, some of it. Now this is my second time to remind you that you should subscribe to my channel if you like bizarre, strange or downright creepy stories about bizarre, strange or downright creepy people, places and experiments. Oh, and also like this video. Thanks in advance. Now till next time, see ya and stay safe.